Greetings one and all. Welcome back to Bushka On Blitz. What an interesting tank we have for you today. This is the British Tier 10 medium, the FV4202, a controversial tank, a tank that can be very divisive in public opinion, and a tank that worries me somewhat. I feel it has some very glaring faults. It also has some startlingly good characteristics. It's a tank that you may not believe this, but performs as well, if not better, than any other Tier 10 medium going around, according to the public stats available. Yeah, it's a really interesting tank. I struggle to know where to begin with this one. It's not a popular tank. Let's kick off with that. Why isn't it a popular tank? I'm not sure, but we're going to have a look at it in an unbiased manner, and then you can possibly make your own mind up as to whether it's a tank that might suit you. While it's not a popular tank, it's a successful tank. And I don't know whether that's because the small amount of people that drive it make it a successful tank because they're determined and they're more experienced drivers, and they've seen a new tank come out and they've rushed up a line. I just don't know. But we're going to have a look at a few things. We're going to use Wot Blitz stars to have a look at some of the stats on this. We're going to have a look at it on Armour Inspector. We're going to talk about the weaponry, namely the gun and the ammo, HESH ammo. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of that and how it performs or underperforms, as the case may be. We're also going to talk about the equipment. I've run quite a few different setups on this tank, and it lends itself to that. It's a real versatile little brawler. And I mean, I say that it's not really a brawler, but it can brawl. It's more a sniper, but it can get up close and personal when the occasion calls for it. So let's kick this off. We're going to have a quick look at a little snippet of something that I think is very important and speaks to one of the greater issues that this tank faces. That issue is just this, that we've had a standard kind of game here. We've had 2 kills. We've done just a shade over 2,000 damage. This is in every essence a very average game. Yet we managed to score a Mastery Badge 2nd class. Now what that means is we've had more experience earned in that game than 80% of people who've played the tank. And what that speaks to is the fact that obviously not many people are playing this bloody tank. Yet, according to all the stats I look at, it's a really successful tank. It's a tank that does very well. If we have a look at my standard average stats for this tank, 402 games, 2,000 average damage, that's almost enough to step up every time and get a Mastery Badge 2nd class. And that should just not be the case. I want to investigate this a little bit further. We're going to go and have a look at World of Tanks Blitz stars now. So World of Tank Blitz stars opened up my eyes to a couple of interesting things. Firstly, there's only about 70 users who use this tank. But of those 70 users, they average about 183 battles each on the tank, which got me to thinking that there are actually quite a bit of playtime going into this tank, even when it's not very, very popular. I know it's a recently released tank, but it was released... The mouse was released recently as well, or not released recently. In the IS4, you know, these are lines that were added in, and the FV4202, which is really recent, that's got as many people playing it. And yet, of all the Tier 10 mediums, it has the highest win rate. A win rate of 53.03% on average, which, and to me, speaks that people are using the tank very successfully. But it's a tricky bugger of a tank. It can be really, really annoying and frustrating. And we're going to have a look in Armour Inspector at exactly why that's the case. Here we have the IS4. Very tough Russian tank, Russian heavy. Now, we're looking at this from the perspective of the German medium at the moment, but we're going to have a look at it from the FV4202's perspective. Tough, sea of red, hard to ping anything there apart from that lower frontal glacis. If that is covered up, what are you going to do? Well, you can't do anything. Because your gold premium ammo is HESH, and HESH is just a raging inferno of frustration as far as I'm concerned. HESH on a big British tank destroyer with a 150mm gun is fantastic. It hits something, it's got a huge splash radius, stuff just melts. It's wonderful. This HESH, however, doesn't have the penetration values that has, and it doesn't have the splash radius that has, and it doesn't have as big a caliber gun. So high explosive squash heads aim is actually to have a medium amount of penetration and do a whole lot of damage. Unfortunately, the damage just isn't easily applied to other tanks. The way it's modelled is just a simple high explosive with a higher penetration value. So 210mm is your average penetration roll on HESH. That amounts to the stock ammo, basically, of a T-54, which is 201. And that's not very much. That's a poor penetration value. And what you end up with is tanks moving. If you try and shoot HESH at them and you hit a rounded surface or a track or a module, you're going to just damage the module or do no damage at all, and it's absolutely hopeless. You often will shoot HESH when you would absolutely pen with APCR, but you shoot HESH because you want to do that extra little bit of damage, and you miss because it hits a module or the tank turns slightly, and that's like throwing away 350 damage that you'd normally do on your standard APCR round. And sure, you can shoot into the back of tanks with HESH or high explosive, and that's great, but my issue with that is you can shoot in the back of tanks with high explosive. It doesn't need to be HESH. You'll still do damage with it. Why should that be your gold round? I just find it to be a very, very frustrating thing where every other tank, or most other tanks, if they need to pen, they go to gold. If you need to pen, you're just shit out of luck. It ain't happening. If we have a look at the E50, it'll really illustrate just how tough a thing this can be. The E50M, when it can't pen and it can't see the lower frontal glacis, it switches to heat. Look at that. Look how much green pops up there. Even on the upper glacis is an over 50% chance of penetration. There's heaps of spots there where you're just about guaranteed to pen. Frontally, it becomes an absolute nightmare for the poor old IS4. But you can see with APCR, even just a little angling like that, it all goes back to good, but not with high explosive anti-tank. And my friends, the high explosive anti-tank that those guys are using, they're using on the same tank that you drive. When you roll up with an FV4202 and you're in a dogfight and you get yourself in a situation where you can bounce shots by doing the right thing with your turret and with your upper glacis and all that kind of stuff, and you're turning yourself red, if they then use a high explosive anti-tank, it becomes a lot easier to pen, and you just don't have that option. You're stuck using the same APCR. Now you've got a bouncy front glacis, but there's a huge big old hole there below, and that upper turret is horrific. Look at that turret ring. If you're ever wondering where to shoot an FV4202, shoot it at its gun. You're very unlikely to actually hit the weapon, but both the cheeks on either side, the turret ring below it, they're all fair game. Like, they're absolutely easy. If you want to know the secret to drilling this tank, aim at its gun. You're probably going to miss it, and you're going to absolutely hammer whoever's inside it. So there you go. That's my take on the armour and the penetration values, and I think it's something that dogs this tank and is a big glaring weakness. But onwards and upwards. Right, so the cranky old shit Bushka got his little rant about HESH out of the way. And I'd just like to say one final thing on this. HESH has an average penetration value of 210. It does the same value damage as HE, your standard high explosive. You're far better off just shooting HE at stuff when it's a super weak spot, because you're more than likely you're still going to be able to penetrate like the back of the M103 or the T32 or the T110E3. A lot of the American tanks, they're made of macrame at the rear. And you don't need to spend $5,500 nearly, or 5,200 credits to do it. And that's the killer, really. Like, you're spending over $5,000 for a round, and it's not going to pen, it does 20 damage when you hit what you're aiming for, that's not on. Anyway, onwards and upwards. Let's talk about something else. And this is my final gripe. We've had a look at the armour that's annoying. We've had a look at the HESH. My final gripe is the engine. And it's not actually the engine itself that's the issue. You see, the manoeuvrability and the mobility of this tank I find to be excellent. It has 50 degrees of traverse, second only, I believe, to the 56 of the T62A, and 40 degrees of turret traverse, which when combined with 50 degrees of standard traverse is apples. You go turn it on a dime. It's got 40 tonnes of weight and 810 horsepower, which means that you have more than 20 horsepower per tonne, which means it accelerates like the clappers. Very similar power to weight ratio of something like the T54. Its top speed is 40 kilometres an hour. I mean, that's obscene. I used to run on most of my mediums. I run an engine power burst because it's really important to get to your top speed quickly and reach your targets quickly, and from there gain map control and tactically use those advantages to screw people over. But there's just no point with this tank because it reaches its top speed really quickly anyway. And you'll hear in the gameplay replays, it will almost whine. It's like the Centurion 7 Mark 1. It will get to its top speed, and it's like, and it's banging up against it. It's there, going down hills. It won't go any faster. They've limited the speed, and I just don't understand that. I don't see why they've put a cap on the manoeuvrability of this tank. I don't believe that it's necessary. I think that the tank itself should have a top speed somewhere around 50 kilometres an hour, and that would be all it needs to make it worthwhile with the whole HESH debacle and everything like that, and the fact that its turret armour is super unreliable. But for whatever the case may be, for whatever reason, they're not going to do that. They've put 40 kilometres an hour as its top speed. That's a very slow top speed for a medium tank. Let's have a look at some of our Tier 10 heavies. T110E5, top speed is 37 kilometres an hour. Now, obviously, it's not going to get there as quickly as anything else. Let's have a look at the M103. I think it's pretty quick too. IS7 flat out top speed is like 50 something kilometres an hour, but you hardly ever see that. Yeah, 50 kilometres an hour. It's too big and too heavy. The M103, its top speed is 34 kilometres an hour, so it's actually not that close at all. But you're seeing what we're looking at here, the IS8, and it does get up there. Its top speed is 50 kilometres an hour, and it can actually get up there. What we're seeing is a tank that's almost been limited on purpose, and I don't understand why. Those big boxy ears on the side, by the way, not hit boxes. You can have shells go through there, you won't get hurt, much like the sides of the T29. It's got a great little profile. It slides along behind mounds and such. It's got, I forgot to mention, it does have negative 10 degrees of gun depression, which is beautiful. I love my gun depression, all over gun depression. Of the Tier 10 mediums, it's got the best gun depression, which is lovely, because I think gun depression is a vastly underrated stat, and the ability to get a shot off without exposing too much of your soft underbelly is something this tank can do very successfully. The other thing we have to obviously mention when talking about that engine is, there we go. See, because you have a good power to weight ratio and you have excellent acceleration and you can get out and go very quickly, it means that when you're juking backwards and forwards or you're brawling, this tank is excellent. It's not got the best armour for brawling, and it doesn't have the best DPM for brawling. Something like a T62 has the best DPM, and the M48A1 is outstanding in terms of just on-the-move armour. Its armour when moving about can be deceptively hard to hit so long as it keeps itself pointed in the right direction. And that adds to the ability of the tank to perform a very versatile role, that engine. If we have a look at the vital statistics of the gun. Excellent dispersion, 0.32 at 100 yards or 100 metres is great. 2.1 second aiming time is very good as well. So it's a great sniping weapon. Its rate of fire is a touch low, its DPM is a touch low, but it's very good at range. It's not as good as an E50. It does, after driving both of them, it does feel a little like an E50, but it doesn't have that top end, like downhill ramming speed that the E50M can get up to. I'll tell you this, the engine not letting you go past 40 kilometres an hour is really frustrating. When you're driving and you see the pickup and you'll get out before most tanks, like you'll see get out before most tanks and then after about 20 seconds they're driving past you. Because for whatever reason you're only allowed to go to 40 kilometres an hour. I think that's outrageous. But anyway, I digress and I'm carrying on like a pork chop. So why do I like the tank so much? You may ask, because I do. I love it. I've played 400 odd games in the tank. I've had some great games in it. I love the look of it. If you grew up in my era, this was the tank you used to see. The Centurions and these style of tanks you used to see a lot of in the news telecasts and things like that when there was troubles and strife. That big old Centurion there, I mean, they used to have them in the Australian Army and all those kind of things. And it was an interesting tank. And so there's a real historical tie-in for me. But at the same time, a gun that has a 0.32 dispersion rate at 100 metres on a tank that can do 50 degrees of traverse and occasionally, very occasionally, have a controversial little shell in there that'll do 500 damage as a medium. Yeah, count me in. I'm interested. And it's a tank that I think is well worth driving. Despite the fact, obviously, that very, very few people drive it. And I think that's also a driving factor for me. I need to say drive more often in my sentences, obviously. It's a tank that you can push toward and know that there's a little bit of a value there in novelty and exotic. People don't see a lot of them when you're playing the game. Whereas you see a hell of a lot of T62As and even E50Ms of late. So, my equipment. I ran this with a net for a very, very long time. It's got good camo. I've got 15% perks on my camo. And in some of these videos that you see, some of the videos that are upcoming, you will see they are with nets on, and then I switched and put vents on. The reason I put vents on, I found that when you play this game in publics and such, there are a lot of people that just flat out don't know how to play, or they play like headless chooks, and you are forced, if you want to win, to play the role of a brawling medium tank. And when you're being a brawling medium tank, camo net does nothing for you. You may as well try, it's like tits on a bull. It's no good to you whatsoever. You want your vent then. You want to maximise your gun handling and your turn and your acceleration and everything like that. And that's why you buy vents. I also run a vertical stabiliser because I was running into lots of brawls and I needed to. You could really run rammer, camo net and binoculars or something like that because it's got a very good view range. It's a 265 metre view range, which is only 5 metres below the pattern. And that's something that if you really wanted to snipe and make this your full-time sniper, nasty, sneaky assassin tank, go for your life. It's the right tank to do it with, and people will yell at you. But as long as you've got thick skin and you don't mind being called a noob, well, I mean, who doesn't get called a noob anyway? This tank will do it. So let's go and have a look at the gameplay, boys and girls, because, God, you must be tired of the sound of my voice and looking at pictures that aren't doing any firing. So I'm Bushka On Blitz. Let's go. See exactly what I'm talking about here with the engine. We get up to our top speed fairly handily, even as we're going up a slight incline here. We're already there. There's no point having an engine boost. I mean, sure, it'd help you around here, but the difference is so minimal. But But yeah, this is also why I flicked not just the engine boost, but I also flicked the camo net, because on maps like this, we've got two mediums, they've got two mediums. One of their mediums hasn't come, and that's so often the case for me when I go up here. Like, this poor T54's done the right thing, but his other mediums left him high and dry, and he's eaten it because of that. And I find that to be the case all the time, where I have to do the lion's share of medium work because the other guy's in respawn sniping. And when that's happening, there's absolutely no point rolling with a camo net. Now, you'll see every replay we do today is a gold mastery badge. And that's because there's only 70 people server-wide really who are running this tank, it seems. I think I've got those stats correct, by the way. If I'm doing them wrong, then I'm sure someone can point that out in the chat underneath the video. So we're ripping shots into that E100. I know there's an E75 out there as well, but I've really got to get this E100 off my back. If he comes round, I'll be in strife, and I know the E75's going to be a one-shot. So here he comes. Big old E100. Always going that lower glacis, and you can see here, one thing that having no heat makes you do is learn how to hit weak spots. Because if you don't hit weak spots in this tank, if you just fire from the hip, all you're going to do is die a lot. Like, it relies on you being sensible, putting yourself in flanking positions to do damage. And it's almost like a good training medium. If you're going to be driving this tank, you're going to learn good, solid medium tactics and learn about flanking. Now, this is a situation where if he was on low enough hit points, I may have switched to HESH or HE and try to put one through the very weak spot on the back of the turret. But if I miss it, you know, I'm not doing damage and blah, 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 blah. So there we go. Game number one under the belt. Then we get our mastery badge for the grand total of about 3,700 damage, which is a bit disappointing. And I think despite the fact that I've bagged the tank a bit in the lead up to this, and speaking of FV4202s, there's one there, it's not a bad tank to drive. The mobility, as you can see here, it moves around very comfortably. Look at the traverse on it. I mean, it really does keep its nose to the enemy very successfully. And the gun is a winner. 0.32 on that gun, 350 alpha, nothing to scoff at. And it can reach out at range and really put the hurt on people. And it's not a bad on the move shot. You can see there, we put one straight through him. The thing you've got to do with this tank is be patient. If you let the game unfold, and I know I was platooning with Dark Knight and we were both running FV4202s, and he's way more aggressive than I am, and he's just a better player than I am, I believe. So he's probably able to take those risks, but I find I'm a bit more run-of-the-mill, and if I just play a little bit smarter, I tend to do a hell of a lot better. So you can see I'm going to let that T54 basically come out, and we'll take him apart first. Unless that IS-8 really makes a push and makes me move, I'm not going to give him a thing. And we're still safe as houses back here. He hasn't moved forward, he hasn't supported, he hasn't done anything. The T-54's pushed and been punished for it. I always think, why look a gift horse in the mouth? Why give a fool an even break? And that's really true about this game. You'll see people will complain all the time about, you know, camping, or you're a coward. I mean, they say you're a coward for the way you play a video game, for Christ's sakes. But, I mean, tank destroyers have huge, big, massive guns. You don't make it easy for them. You're not going to run in front of them. Like, heavy tanks have armour that allows them to side scrape. I mean, I'm not going to stand in front of them. I don't understand why people get so upset when tanks like this and the E50M and Centurion and such, they sit back and snipe, because that's what their strength is. They've got a long range weapon that's really accurate and can inflict damage without taking a whole lot of risks themselves. Now, you can see what I'm talking about here with the T110E3. I'll shift this up to HESH. So we're firing HESH because the sides is made of tinfoil, but this back engine block on a lot of the American tanks, you can see you do big damage. 466 there for a medium, which is very nice. But you could just as easily be firing standard HESH instead of premium HESH here, which is the gold ammunition. Now this will be another gold-winning mastery badge, I'm assuming. Yep, there we go. That time it was for just over 4K. So solid game, a good game. I'd certainly be happy to be doing 4,000 damage every time, but certainly not happy that this tank is so unpopular that that's enough to get me gold mastery badges. You guys have to start driving this thing. You can see here, this is not really range stuff. This is more brawling and up close again. And the tank, it's sinuous. It's very snake-like the way it moves. I mean, in and out like a fiddler's elbow. Look at the thing go. And I want to get the 62A, but the 54 is going to plan himself, so we'll take him. And because you've got that really steep upper glacis, if you just give him a little bit, it's a lot like a Russian tank's front, it'll bounce. And again, you can see very quick to move. 40 kilometers an hour top speed, but wow, does it get there fast. It really gets out there. And I'll switch to HESH here because that T54, he's clever enough. I don't have the gold ammo to penetrate his turret, but I can do damage just by hitting it, and it'll do enough to with splash damage to actually get it done. Now I could have used standard HESH there. It didn't have to be premium HESH, but every premium HESH round is costing me $5,000, and I take offence at that. So here we go, T110E5. We've let the T54 go past, just really simple stuff here, and we're going to go up there and pump one into his side while he's paying attention to the other tank, and swerve just inside him here. Put another one on his side again at the rear. You can see how manoeuvrable this tank is, and it's one of the reasons you'll want to drive it. It's really, really sinuous. It can take advantage of just a breath of fresh air to get through. Here we go, they've got all their power stored up in this one last little pocket. There's an IS-7. We cop one because we're overzealous and probably deserve that. And we bounce one there. Normally you could just sit back here and pound heat, but we don't have any heat to pound, so we're going to have to be a little bit more adventurous than the average bear here. Now we're going to get one into the T95 over there, because the IS-7's stuck and he can't come out. And then we go down here to help the M48. Get ourselves a bit of our knickers out in a twist. We turn around and get it all together. Now that lower front glacis is on offer here, so we're obviously going to go for that. You'll see how tough it is to pen when he moves just a little bit. Pattern, however, no problems at all. Only the E75 left, and we can always get rid of him with a quick little bit of drive-by work. 75's now having a bit more of a struggle with traverse since that patch. There we go, straight on by, one in the side, turning round, able to move a lot quicker than the traverse of his gun. Another in the side. You can see just turn into a reverse, firing all the time. Very stable platform for this weapon. I'm guessing that's another 4K game. Another gold mastery badge. Oh, it hurts my heart to look at it. Here we are on Temple, Lost Temple. Now this is when I was running a camo net, and you can see the other ones were running events. I was actually running a camo net, and I've given up on the old speed modifier on this one. We're using adrenaline again. And we're basically just looking for targets of opportunity. You can see we're able to fire here at that Conqueror without him actually seeing us. Going to put another one through the drive wheel, as all good mediums should do. He's stuffed. He's got no idea where it's coming from. Just knows he's got to get out of the water somehow. And that gun, I mean, that gun is very, very accurate. Going to let camo reset before we move back up and take our traditional position here. Camping like a... No, I won't say that. Camping hard on the corner of the map. Now, it's only a panther down there, so obviously not too worried about the panther. I'm counting the numbers. There's 5 guys up top. With the Panther, that's 6, so I know there's no one else there to be worried about. I can push forward and handle this fella comfortably. There's that engine noise. And look, it goes up the hill really well. Look at it climb. Very solid. Very accurate. Look at how quickly it gets its front glacis back into that Panther. Never any doubt in the world that he was going to get a shot at our side. And that's one of the reasons I guess I really enjoy driving this tank. It's such a versatile tank. We've gone from sitting out in the flanks with a high energy, low dispersion gun, pumping rounds, to we're now going to go and do some wet work up on the top of Lost Temple here. There's still opportunities to look at this. And I'd love to have a bit of heat here, because this next shot would go for sure. Sorry, not that one, this one I think it is. But still, these are low dispersion, low aim time. It's a really enjoyable weapon, this L701. Here's me driving for justice, running in the walls. Look at the accuracy on that weapon. You saw the shot we put onto the turret of the Conqueror at range, and now, yeah, this is a bridge too far. That's not going to work. And we're going to set him on fire, but he's not a bad driver. He put that out very quickly. Returning. So we managed to take the one on the track from the I-7, but the ST on our left put one into us. You can see it moving around. We're going to reverse very quickly out of there. You don't have to worry too much about him again. Now, I guess the brave thing here to do would be to run out there and dogfight and brawl and whatever. But if you're doing it that way, you're doing it wrong. The easiest way to win is to shoot someone and not have them shoot you back. And I'll go to great lengths to have someone not shoot me back. So you can see here, I'm just waiting until he turns away. And then I'm going to make a living pumping easy shots into the side of him. And we're going to switch to HESH, because he has left that little strip below open. And this is where HESH is really, really handy. He's on 360. That's more than an average damage roll for us, but we've got HESH, and that's going to do it every time. So it can be handy, but again, it's not as a trap for young players, it's right up there. So the pros, the cons, the joys, the highs, the lows, the sorrow, all of that wrapped up into one review. It's a wonderful tank if you can make it work for you. And I'd like to think that I can make it work for me. I certainly enjoy driving it, and I guess at the end of the day, that's what's most important. I'll drive anything if I enjoy it. I won't drive something just because it's overpowered or it wins a lot. If I'm not enjoying a tank, I'm not going to drive it. I can honestly say that I drive this tank a lot. 402 games, it speaks for itself. So I've been Bushka On Blitz. I still am Bushka On Blitz, but you've been a lovely audience. If you're interested at all, I'll be on the Asian servers, game forums, game discussion forums under the English-speaking section there. In-game, add me in-game, Bushka in-game on the Asian servers, or always hit me up here on the YouTube channel with a comment. Lovely to see people starting to come to the channel and leave a bit of banter and back and forth. Thanks very much for having me, and as always, I'll see you on the battlefield.